How is everybody today? Welcome back. Happy Wednesday. Glad to be here as always. Yeah, we're in such an interesting place, aren't we? It's like we have kind of fast-tracked this thing, right? And I'm a little bit in shock, but also very aware that I need a pause. Okay. So I need to stop evolving for a second to let my wits catch up with me, right? And to really have a moment to reevaluate where I am. I just feel like so much has changed. Just simply the fact of abandoning the fight, getting out of the fight up here. That's been revolutionary for me. Hold on one second. Sorry, the heater was on. Background noise. But yeah, having your mind find serenity and peace and abandoning the fight, I'm shocked at that process requires only one thing. Trust. And the weight and power of that trust continues to kind of blow my mind. Because when you get down to it, that's all you need. That's all you need. And as I'm evaluating myself in my day, and yesterday I was just in a really bad mood, right? The political environment in this country was blowing up and I was just in a bad mood, right? Things were happening that I didn't like, right? That I was feeling threatened by, that feels unsafe to me. And as we all know, my default position, what I grew up doing, the wiring and programming that's up here that evolved as I was, growing up, was to fight, right? I seek it out. Right? I will fight. I will fight. So to abandon that, especially up here, that's a game changer. And again, it only requires one thing: trust. The other day, I was in here and I was and I was saying, how joy is actually trust. I don't know if you caught me say that or not. And that is true. That is true. So that calls into clarity that if the only mandate from the universe is joy, and joy is defined as 1,000% trust in what is, then that's the only thing that's required for where we're going. It's such a simple equation, isn't it? Right? Because when we're in fear, we're not in trust. And when we're in trust, we're not in fear. It's just that simple, right? So if that's the fulcrum, right? The fulcrum of which we, live and vibe with and energetically exchange with, right? With what is. And we know that, and I've identified that my only problem is trust. Is having a trust problem in the universe, right? Because if you have that down, it literally doesn't matter what else is going on, right? Because the universe has got it in the bag. And we don't have to, undo ourselves emotionally, mentally, however, in order to be in reaction to, if we truly do trust that we're all on the same mountain heading in the same direction. How much trust can we have in that for our fellow humans? Ooh. Right? Okay, we're gonna do our best, fellow humans, and there doesn't have to be a lot of trust there. You can abandon that. You don't have to place your trust in your fellow humans when you have your trust in a higher place, right? And we can unburden ourselves and go on vacation. So, anyhow, I wanted to loop back one thing that I led into a couple of videos ago when I was describing my first series of books with Foreign to Me. I still need a name for the series. Isn't that weird? I wrote 3 books. I have the names for the books, but I don't have the name for the series. So I'm still working on that. If you have a brilliant idea, feel free to reach out. But what I started saying is that that series, while very dense, has been described as the intersection of conversations with God, and then I went off on this whole diatribe of what that meant to me, without looping back around what the other cross street was of that intersection, which is Fight Club, right? I love that book. Oh, gosh, it was a great movie too. But I love the way that that guy writes. I've read that book several times. I find him really inspiring as an author. So anyhow, but I just wanted to finalize that in case you all were like wondering, what's the second part of that equation? Sorry about that. I sometimes get off on a tangent and then I'm gone down the rabbit hole. So anyways, I wanted to loop back that up. Back that up. Loop back that up. Oh yeah. So the other thing I wanted to address was checking your work, right? And why that was so inspiring to me as a young person when I learned that you could take the same numbers in a math equation and put those same numbers in a different order and then change, you know, whatever it is that they're doing energetically, whether it's a times, you know, divide, whatever. By changing that in those numbers, they still come out to like a sensible equation, how you check your work, right? Anyhow, I started talking about that last time, and I also wanted to like kind of point out, in case there were any other like seekers in here who are doing similar work to this, because I found something that I find really interesting that I do not have time to go chase after. Okay, so I'll be doing this a little bit in here. I certainly do it a lot in my books, which is to point out ding, 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 right? Wherever we're going through things, and I find something that I think is an entry point, an access point for deeper learning and understanding. And that if somebody had the time to do this number, right, and unpack it all and take it down to its barest roots, that I think you'd find something in there. I don't know what it is because I don't have the time, or, you know, well, just I don't have the time. I have the interest. But I got other things that I'm working on in here, right? So when I find things that I'm like, oh, I think there might be something down in here, if somebody wants to go check it out, I think that could be a really fun exercise. The thing that I'm finding in the check your work kind of idea is that when you look at a math equation of one kind, right, and its energy signature or, you know, visual representation, that's going to have one read. And then when you check the work and change those numbers, it's going to have a different read energetically in terms of its energy signature. And this was like, it's taken me a while to like figure this out, but when I was like a young person, I had like learning disabilities because I would look at the numbers written a certain way as an energy signature rather than as whatever they were looking at, right? And so then I would try and understand it that way, as rather than a bunch of individual things, as a singular experience, right? A singular expression of math, that equation. But then when you could rework the numbers and have it come out and make sense and work while still having a different energy signature to that expression, I was like, oh my gosh, because there's so much like similarity, yet so much difference, all existing in the same place. Anytime I see that type of duality of extreme opposites or extreme differences or things while still at the same time simultaneously being exactly the same, like that to me is ding, 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 right? I immediately see, oh, there's something down in there, right, that you want to go check out and find. Anyhow, that's one of the examples. There's like, it's kind of fun if you get into that type of work, because my book is just riddled with them, right? Like, oh, here's an access point, you know, because I'm you know, doing my thing and channeling and getting the information down onto the page. And a lot of times I don't have the time when I'm writing, because the way I write, it feels like the inkling, right? Because channeling comes through as an inkling, right? Not as a, you know, loudspeaker. And so when you're tuning into that, you have to chase it. And it's so fleeting. It's so fleeting and delicate, right? The information, that I feel like my husband will watch me and I'm just like banging away on my keyboard, often crying like crazy, and just typing it as fast as I can go, you know, and that's how I write. Oh my gosh, I should film it sometime. It's a mess. It's like I go through boxes of Kleenex because I'm just into the human experience, and I'm in awe of the beauty that I continue to be shown and express through myself into the work. And that makes me cry because it's just so beautiful, right? And anyhow, as I'm going through that process and writing the books, there's lots of times where, and hopefully you'll find this to be fun. I think it is. I'll be like, right here, access point, right? Like in terms of how you get to these other places and rooms and spaces behind the veil, if you want to do that, if you want to do that work, if you want to go off grid and explore what it's like to tinker on the causal plane and affect future outcomes. That's energy work. That's where we're going. That's what's possible. That's what I've seen people do. And it all has laws of physics and like science and magic and it's so cool. That's why I'm so like turned on by this newest book series that I'm writing that has the science of Nikola Tesla, right, in a love affair with Melvin Vaughn, who is this clairvoyant kind of werewolf. Not exactly. He's the person. He's not a werewolf, but he lives his life in service to the great white wolf, right? Same as I do, which is the divine feminine here on Earth, at least as I understand it. So I hope that you enjoy reading the books, and if you do have a chance, like, look for those things. And if you are a seeker who's doing this level of energy work, I have left breadcrumbs everywhere throughout the work for you to go and explore and have fun with. I'm also going to be producing a workbook to be associated with the novels themselves, and that'll help guide people through that as well. Because again, when I'm channeling and I'm writing and I'm just taking it down, like I don't have the time to dig into and explore everything. But that's the coolest thing about this work, right? You always find like the next thing, right? And it's in the unearthing of the thing that the new thing arrives, right? So where we are in the work, in it, but not of it. It's a little bit the same concept as the love bus. Remember that video, the love bus? When we were prescribing for ourselves a little bubble of safety that we could kind of travel the world in, right? That we could have a stopgap, right? We've talked about how valuable stopgaps are in terms of your reaction and emotional inner being with what's going on in the outer world, right? To have a stopgap of reaction and thought between what's out there and what's in here. That's the purpose of the love bus, right? It's a form of disconnecting. That's super important in this work. Knowing how to fully disconnect. Remember how we did that? We disconnected that extension cord to the past from our minds, forcing us to be fully present. Because when the cord to the past is severed completely, you have no other option, right? So that's also a survival skill, isn't it? to be able to disconnect from the ego and the past completely in any given second, that can be a life changer. Yeah, absolutely. That can be a game changer, to be able to disconnect from the past. Because the world's getting really crazy. And I think we all know it's going to get a lot more crazy. I don't see this where we are as a country resolving peacefully. You know. But what's peaceful to other people, January 6th, is not peaceful to others. What is a tour for some friends out of state is an abomination to this country's history. So what are we going to do with that? Because I promise you, my charge in here, and I'm getting really clear on this, is to take us through that without getting into the mud. Okay? That's our charge. We're not going back there. We're not getting back into the fight. So that means that we seriously have to learn some new skills in order to lead the charge forward and bring about a more loving earth without getting into the fight. It's so tricky to be in it, but not of it. Do you understand the difference? You are in the world, but you are not of the world. You are of you. You are of Creator, but you are not of this chaos and nonsense that your television is telling you exists. It's good to be informed. It's not good to be terrorized. Turn off your TV. Turn it off. Just turn it off. Find other ways to be involved, to be educated, to be informed. But I don't think that... Anyhow, I don't want to tell you what to do. I just found for myself that when I stopped watching the news, I felt lighter and I felt healthier. And I have that charge in here to bring you through and take care of your mental health. Because we've been taking care of mine, right? And I brought myself up to a level where, oh my gosh, just to be out of the fight and just to feel light and buoyant in the world. So we've done that for me. Thank you for being on that process. Thank you for being willing to be a witness to that. Now that we've done it for me, we're going to be doing it for you. Absolutely. And I feel a responsibility to bring you all up, right, into this level with me so that we can have as many loving humans on the planet who are more interested in doing what's loving than doing what's right. Right? It's staying in. This is the only thing you get from this video. If this is the only thing you get from this video, it is staying in our game, which exists up here, as opposed to their game, which exists out there. That's not where you live, right? Stay home, right? Be seated in yourself, not in the world. Monitor, register, make adjustments as needed within, not without. That's a fool's errand. That's a fool's errand. Right? You have to take care of yourself first. And if our only mandate is joy or 1,000% trust, then that's an equation that starts to make sense to me. Right? I don't have to be the one in charge, other than of myself. Right? I have to be in charge of me, but I don't have to be, you know, the director and choreographer and costume maker and everything else of the show that's happening out there. It's not really any of my business. I mean, I'm still going to be informed. I'm still going to have ideas and thoughts and hopefully leadership in a new direction. Because it's all coming into this same place, and it was such a challenge. I finished another book last night. So I finished writing Handsome Devils, which is the first book in the second series. And it's the same thing that I'm going through with those books that I am in here with this work. Right? To be in a war without fighting. Oh gosh, that love bus got like some kind of armor on it that I don't know about. Right? But again, when we resonate with that level of trust or joy in the universe, that's how we stay lifted above the troubles of the world. You don't got to get down into the fight. You don't have to get down into the basement, right? And it's our trust, our absolute trust, right? That the universe has got it covered. And guess what? All of this awful, all the awful, is happening for a very good reason, right? Why is this perfect? Why is it perfect that we are witnessing the downfall of the strongman, for lack of a better word? Why is that perfect? Well, because it has to happen. It has to happen, right? The old ways, the strong man, right? The strong, straight white man, all of that is dying out. They know it, they can feel it, they're grasping, they're angry, they're trying to rattle the cage to keep this a Christian nation. On the other side, right, you have people who are willing to be open to what is, be open to their neighboring countries, be open to the love and abundance of everything that we have on earth and not live in fear. Right? So if those are the two sides, right? If those are the two sides, how are you helping out? Are you helping out by bringing more angst and fear and trauma into the world? Or are you helping out by diffusing the situation with love? That's where it gets really tough, doesn't it? But it's also where boundaries come into play. So we got to make sure that we have all of that dialed in to our best ability. It is the only way to be in it and not of it. Care less. Check yourself how much of your care is egoically involved. I know, it's so difficult. Especially when there are things that seem counter to the expected down in there, right? It's like my issue with, like, and just, quite frankly, the pain that I have been experiencing in researching and uncovering all of these lives of these young gay men who were lobotomized between 1880 and 1980. Millions and millions of queer people have been put through some form of conversion therapy. The damage is done. And so I walk the tightrope between informing people that this is our history, that this is what queer people have had to endure, right? That this is our lives. So when all these religious people are like, what bigotry? And you're like, are you serious? Are you serious? You're not aware of the stacks and stacks of dead gay kids behind your church? The ones who committed suicide because you told them they were bad, right? Or the ones who just couldn't take it anymore? or the ones who ran away from home and found themselves in a dangerous situation, or were, you know, pick your tune. And until that's seen, we can't move forward properly, because we can't move forward properly until there is, you know, culpability, until the faith communities are like, oh, my bad, sorry. Like, at least see it, right? Like, don't just whitewash it. So we can't move forward with that. And so I have this balancing act of informing people of the horrors of faith communities on the queer community through the terror of lobotomy, which was their favorite go-to cure for people like me. So I walk the balance between informing and lifting up. And that's the challenge I'm in right now with all of this. The political environment, my books. How do we fight a war without devolving into the ego? Oh my gosh, it's so difficult. It's so difficult. I also know that I can do it. I also know that I can paint a picture of an epic war between the Nazis and the young queer kids and the Catholic Church, who keeps, you know, yeah. Anyhow, I know that I can do it. And that's where I am in the work, right? Finding that balance of staying up here, not getting down into the basement, being loving, being light, resonating with joy and trust 1000%, and never letting that waver. And knowing that to fight anything is to fight our own alignment. And that has to come first. Wow. Imagine the personal power that you have to have within yourself, right? To walk through a war and be in it, but not of it. That's a choice. Fear is optional, right? There's so much good stuff that we're getting into, right? And we're just starting to scratch the surface, because trust me, once we get where the goal is, right? We understand the mandate. Now go do it. God, tricky. You know, because that resonance within myself of pure joy, like the second I turn on the television, it's gone. Right? But I am determined, more than anything, to be a monk in the world. In this world. In this tricky, dense, horrible world. Where countries are waging war on women and forcing them into births to give birth. Forced birth. That's where we're headed in America in 2022. Forcing women into births, like into bearing children they don't want. I mean, I don't understand how one person can tell another what to do with their body. Right? That's not your choice. And nobody asked you to stand up for the unborn. Nobody. That's your ego living in service to what you think is something, but it's attached to nothing. Right? Anyhow, that's where we are. And we also understand our mandate, where we're going, and the fact that, and this is the best part, the fact is that we win. We win when we evolve. We win when we resonate with nothing but joy and never let ourselves be taken off that mark. That's how we win, right? By going on vacation, by being happy and light and trusting that the universe has got it covered. It's all in good care. We do not need to micromanage any of it. It's being taken care of. beyond us. Relax. Care less. Much of our care is from here. Abandon that. Abandon thoughts. Abandon ideas of known things. When I think about all of those men who were lobotomized, those young queer kids who had their brains literally electrically fried because they were so unacceptable to their church, that faith communities holding on to Leviticus 18:22, that man shall not lie with a man as he does with a woman. It is an abomination. That verse, go check your Bible. That homophobic, hateful verse, if that's in your Bible, no. That's maybe time for another topic. But know that your joy, your happiness, your resonance with trust, that's how you win. And the more that we can stick to that, right? The more we can stick to that, the more it calls out their crazy, doesn't it? Right? When you're nothing but love and warmth and giving of a generous spirit, and someone comes along who's less than that, like, it's really easy to see, right, one person to the next, especially when they're standing side by side, right, where the love is. And that's where we're going, and that's what we're doing, and that's where we're going to lead from, right? Because we're going to be the Pied Pipers of everything like awesome and great. So much so that everybody's going to want to follow, right? And that's how we move things forward, by being attractive, like we talked about before, by having your energy be attractive, by, again, resonating in joy and knowing that you're in good care. Anyhow, that's all we got time for today. Thank you so much, and I will see you on Friday. All right, bye.